What is going on YouTube? Gabons here and welcome to the 16th episode of the Tech Pills weekly live stream. Alright, let's jump right to the first news of today. GNOME 3.36 release, point 1 released with a bunch of bug fixes. So, many say that GNOME releases are really stable when they hit the first point release. I don't know if that's the case, honestly, but this time with GNOME 3.36.1, we're getting a lot of bug fixes. They include fixes and slight visual tweaks for the application folders in the new application view, a mobile broadband connection icon. They fixed some mix-ups between symbolic and high contrast icons. They did a bunch of fixes for the clock and for fractional time zones. Also usability improvements for fractional time zones. They improved the screen reader support, so that's great for accessibility and visually impaired users. They fixed the password entry size on the login and the lock screen. And Nautilus now no longer ignores hidden directories in the templates folder. So that's very useful if you're making like something like .gitignore templates in your templates folder. And of course, this update is already available for us Arch users, and it will also be available in the now very close Ubuntu 20.04 LTS release. That, by the way, is shaping out to be a really great release. Alright, let's move on to the next news. PinePhone has a new version announced. So the popular PinePhone from Pine64, probably the first widely available Linux phone out there, except for the Nokia, the old Nokia Migo or Maemo phones, if you remember those. So let's just say the first modern widely available Linux smartphone has now a new version that's just been announced by the UbiPorts Foundation. And you heard that right, it's not just a normal PinePhone, it's a collaboration with the guys over at UbiPorts that are developing the Ubuntu Touch operating system for phones. This new revision is mostly identical to the current Braveheart edition, the developer preview that has been shipping in the last month or so. But it has a revised motherboard as well as a custom backplate featuring the UbiPorts logo. And of course, this new version will also come with Ubuntu Touch pre-installed. So that's pretty neat. Currently, Ubuntu Touch is probably the most functional operating system to run on PinePhone, with working phone calls, SMS, LTE data connection, GPS, GPU acceleration, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, making it even closer to a fully featured daily driver capable device. Of course, it's not all well and good because cameras, for instance, are still not working and battery optimizations are still not in place. So if you want to buy this phone to replace your current one, it's not gonna happen, well, at least with this revision and this current situation with software. Of course, the UbiPorts guys, as well as the rest of the community developing for the PinePhone, they're all working on improving hardware support and battery performance. Additionally, with every purchase of this new PinePhone UbiPorts Community Edition, Pine64 will donate $10 to the UbiPorts Foundation to support the development of their OS. And that's really great. I mean, a collaboration between the hardware manufacturer and the software manufacturer or the software vendor is really what we needed here. And pre-orders for this new revision are already open for the usual price of $150, and they should start shipping by late May of this year. As a final note, apparently there are several other community editions of the PinePhone planned, each with a different phone distro on it. And my best bets for the upcoming versions right now are probably Manjaro, Postmarket OS, and KDE Neon. Let's see what the future has to hold for us. But for right now, if you're a fan of the UbiPorts project, you can buy the PinePhone UbiPorts Community Edition again for $150. Starts shipping late May of this year. It's a very interesting initiative from the guys over at Pine64. I hope this makes the PinePhone more popular between among developers and makes it at least more functional with that software. Of course, you will still be able to install whatever operating system you want. You can either flash it to the internal 16 gigabytes of memory, or you can flash it to an SD card and boot it from there. So there are still plenty of options. If the branding doesn't matter to you, you can still buy this UbiPorts edition. It's more up to date compared to the Braveheart edition, and you will still be able to use it to its full potential. Next news of today, GNOME is working on a coloring API for GTK. And this is very interesting because we've been talking about custom themes recently and how they're basically dying off. I mean, there are still some efforts going on to keep them up to date and maintained, but third-party themes as of right now for GTK are not in a very good shape. But this is probably going to change very soon with this new proposal. So this past week, there's been the Design Tools Hackfest 2020. And of course, it's been attended remotely because of the whole coronavirus pandemic and all of that stuff. But anyway, a group of GNOME developers, contextually to this Hackfest, started working on a new API for custom coloring in GTK. This new API should provide app developers with the capability of contextually changing some of the colors in the application in a much easier and, most importantly, in an actually supported way. Some apps already do that. See, for instance, King's Cross Terminal, the new terminal emulator that's been written for the Purism Librem 5, as well as the private mode for Epiphany or GNOME Web. And other applications out there use some custom CSS hacks to be able to change some of the colors in the GTK interface. But this, again, is just mostly a hack and doesn't use any specific documented API to do that. And that's most of the problem here, really. So this new API should probably change that and make it easier and, most importantly, supported to change the colors inside of a GTK application. Along with this new possibility for app developers, these will also open up the possibility to vendors to customize the colors of their GTK implementation or the GTK theme implementation to reflect their branding, or for instance setting a dark mode or a dark title bar with a light color scheme, like in the case of Ubuntu and Pop! OS. Archie Bach says, okay, let's switch to the chat real quick. Is that gonna be GTK 4 or do we get it in GTK 3 already? So, fun fact, I asked the exact same question to the developer Adrien Plazas, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, that wrote this blog post. So I asked him directly, and he said that theoretically this shouldn't be we shouldn't need to wait until GTK 4 to get this, because, and I was just getting to that, this API is not really a GTK feature by itself, but it's more of a feature in the theme. So it should be implemented in the Adwaita theme instead of the toolkit. So theoretically, again, we should be able to see this change in GTK 3, and I hope we do, because I, as a developer, I really want to play around with that and see if I can adapt some of my apps to use some custom colored title bars, for example. He didn't elaborate on like an estimated time of arrival for this feature, but he made it clear that they're working on it and that they're trying at least to see if it can be included in GTK 3. I can expect that it will come for sure in GTK 4, but as for GTK 3, I don't know. I think so, but I don't know. And the guy that wrote this blog post doesn't know either. So it's still very much a work in progress at this point, but of course, With time, we'll learn more about it. So again, great work from the GNOME developers, mostly because, I mean, if you look at a very cohesive GNOME desktop with just GNOME GTK3 apps, at some point it just gets boring, in my opinion. It's not like it's not pretty. No, I mean, it's really pretty. I mean, if you look at files or gedit or GNOME Builder or, I don't know, Tilex, Geary, they all look very nice, and together it all looks like a cohesive experience, and that's very nice on a desktop. But you can have a cohesive experience and at the same time have some way to distinguish applications from one another. I mean, with header bars nowadays, we don't even have the application title in the title bar anymore. So having custom colors to distinguish applications between one another, and also to add some visual flair and some branding to the applications themselves, could be a very interesting option. And as a user, I'm thrilled, and as a developer, I'm even more interested. So let's see where that goes. Let's move on to the next news of today. The Zoom video conferencing app was struck with security vulnerabilities and more. So, since the coronavirus pandemic, many companies and universities, including mine, have started using the Zoom video conferencing software. And the thing about Zoom is I have never really thought about it too much. I know that there are some people in the community that in the Linux community that are using it and are actually enjoying it very much. And it's actually one of the few very professional, I mean, those like enterprise software that runs well on Linux. So they have a native version for Linux, and it works, and I've used it. The last time I used it is today. But still, it's proprietary software, and with proprietary software, as always, you always have some concerns about the security and what it's doing, and you don't really know the full extent to which the application goes, security-wise, privacy-wise, and as well as functionality-wise. Jose Marcos says, "Hey guys, hey there, thank you for joining." So, as I was saying, Zoom, proprietary software, it's available on Linux, still proprietary software. So after some initial and understandable scaling problems related to the unexpected increase in traffic for the Zoom servers, more serious problems have afflicted the video conferencing app. I'm talking about serious and dangerous security vulnerabilities, mostly, to be frank, on Mac OS. So it doesn't really touch us Linux users directly. Still, it's pretty concerning, and according to the security researchers that found these bugs, these vulnerabilities, it's possible to for malicious code to perform privilege escalation to root just by using Zoom, arbitrary access to the camera and microphone, and library injection. So that's very concerning, particularly the privilege escalation and library injection. I mean, once you're root, you can do whatever you want on the system. It's very concerning. And another serious issue is that the claim of the company to use end-to-end encryption in their calls has been proven wrong. And in response to this finding, they stated that, quote, "We recognize that there is a discrepancy between the commonly accepted definition of end-to-end encryption and how we were using it." I mean, that's just hilarious. No, there was no discrepancy. They were just plain lying there. So apparently the way that their encryption works is that they have a server send clients the encryption keys, the symmetric encryption keys to use in the communication. So that's already insecure by itself, because if the encryption keys gets intercepted, even if it's sent with something like HTTPS, there's always a possibility of it being cracked and used to intercept or to decrypt already intercept private communications. And consider that, again, Zoom is being used for university classes, and that's okay. There's probably some privacy concerns there, but it's not all that important. What I'm really worried about is companies using it, exchanging private and very sensitive company information via this Zoom software, and that's the most concerning part to me. Aram says in the chat, "Hey, I use Arch, by the way." Hi there, thanks for joining, and welcome to the Arch family, I guess. So this is very concerning that such a widely used app like Zoom has so many security problems. And another thing is that they're using a kind of encryption. They're using AES 128-bit, which is mostly unused today. It's still kind of secure. It's still very hard to crack, but most companies, as of today, have moved to AES 256 bits. That's even more secure, and they're still using 128. So I don't know about that. And also, the way that they're using the key makes it possible to get some information, get some residual information from the encrypted data because of the the kind of randomness they're using. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's enough to say that their encryption situation is mostly, if it's existent, it's mostly useless. Anyway, as far as I know, there were no vulnerabilities found in the Linux version up to this point, but I cannot exclude that there are some just waiting to be found. It's, of course, since most people are using probably Mac OS with the Zoom app, it's probably more interesting for hackers and security researchers to find vulnerabilities on those platforms. Of course, since Linux is still a very niche user base, it's understandable that we have no reports of vulnerabilities found. Still, again, I think that there are some vulnerabilities. I'm not sure, I cannot be sure of that because the code isn't open source and I don't have the capabilities of doing a security research on my own. What I can suggest you to do, if you absolutely need to use Zoom, first of all, ask your boss or your teacher or your professor to switch to something else like Jitsi Meet, which is an open source video conferencing app that you can use right in your browser. Or alternatively, if you absolutely, again, have to use Zoom, install it in a sandbox using something like Flatpak or Snap. That way, if there are some security vulnerabilities, there are less chances that you will be compromised. Hopefully, I think. Anyway, and this leads me to my next point, really, that there seems to be no interest in evaluating different solutions like Jitsi Meet. Today I had the chance to ask one of my professors or lecturer to switch to another video conferencing software, and what they said is that that the university has paid for it, so they will be using it for the time being, but because of these software vulnerabilities, it could be discussed. They weren't very clear, but I mean, I don't think they will really consider it. I don't know why there is still the stigma for open source software out there, even in the technical community, because I mean, computer science professors are technical people. They should be able to understand the difference between one kind of software and another. I don't really know about that. Some other professors for other subjects are using just plain YouTube, which isn't the best privacy wise, but it just works. And as far as everyone that consumes the content goes, it's as private as it gets. Well, it's more private than Zoom, and it doesn't put some vulnerabilities into your system. That was my point. And let's move on to the next topic of today. And we're still talking about InfoSec here. And this topic is really close to me personally. Well, not close to me because I wasn't affected, but to my nation for sure. Because the Italian National Institute for Social Security, the INPS, leaks sensitive information about the Italian citizens. And this was really, when this news came out, well, most of the technical community wasn't really in shock, because we know how things go here in Italy, and how things are implemented, and the fact that when a government agency has to do something tech related or something at all, they try to spend less amount of money and to get the thing like as fast as possible. So it's not really surprising, still very concerning. So let me explain this story to you. So the Italian government is handing out some monetary aids to its citizens that are currently not able to work because of the current pandemic situation, by applying for it on the Social Security website. And that's where the fun begins. Following the announcement by the government, there was a predictable spike of users in the website. There are reports that said that there were about 600 concurrent connections per second. The funny thing is that, at least in the first stages, the website didn't just go down and stop working. Instead, people started seeing random people's information when they logged in. So if I were to log in, I would have probably have seen the information of another citizen. And we're talking about very private and sensitive information here, like the social security number and other, other information that you wouldn't want to share with strangers. The Italian government has, of course, tried to find a scapegoat for this situation, claiming that there were that this issue was caused by multiple hacker attacks. Wow. And that they were forced to shut down their servers because of it. Imagine that. The reality of the situation, while it isn't really clear, because again, we cannot look at what happened directly, is that it's probably that the website is just written poorly. And I have some proof of that. I mean, we have some proof of that. Someone decided to take a look at the JavaScript source code for the website, being, I mean, the closest thing to actual production code that you can get and publicly read in a closed source web service. Anyway, they shared some information. I verified this information. I mean, these snippets of code that went online, I verified them personally by checking out the source code for myself, and there was an extensive use of the variable Pippo, which in Italian is the name of the Disney character Goofy, and also a common variable name used when writing dumb example code. It's the kind of thing that you would, I don't know, it's like writing foo, for instance. Other interesting things I found in the code are many commented portions of code, instead of having them deleted and probably properly organized, spread throughout the script. Useless functions that do one or two things are used one or two times. And other dumb undergrad stuff, like using if something equals false instead of if not something. That's very sad. And I'm really not one to judge other people's code, because my personal the code that I write is also kind of messy from time to time, but this was clearly made by someone that doesn't know anything about programming, at least the JavaScript part. I cannot speak for the backend because I cannot look at that, but I'm pretty sure that if the front end is that bad, the backend isn't any better. But the big problem here is that we're talking about a critical piece of software used to store the Italian citizens' personal data, and this is just, I mean, this is just unacceptable. We have this public information, this private information being now public because of whoever was in charge of making the system decided to hire someone that doesn't know anything about programming because he was just being paid minimum wage. That's really sad, and I hope that the situation will change. I hope that the real problem will be found, and I hope that whoever made this problem happen, whoever decided that this was proper production code to ship in the Social Security website, gets what he deserves. Anyway, guys, I think this is gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Subscribe to our channel if you want more. Join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community or using the QR codes you can find here on the side. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.